Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you for being with us tonight. Here we are again in another roundtable conversation. Real conversations, real answers. And I am Berenice Castillo, founder and CEO of MSAN. And I am extremely excited tonight. We have an amazing people with us tonight. I will be introducing them in just a second. But tonight we are celebrating our military spouses. You, the ones that are doing amazing things, the ones that have been in it for a while, the ones that are just starting the journey. We are here for you, and this is for you. But tonight we have some amazing. What can I say? They are amazing leaders. But tonight they're here because their spouses are also amazing. Because what they have contributed to our military and our military families, it's been just amazing. So I am going to start with by order on my screen. I want to welcome Colonel Janaros. He is the 37th BMT training. I'm going to say it that way, sir. That way the new spouses that are joining us can understand a little bit of the language, the basic military training. So thank you so much, sir, for being with us, and I look forward to speaking with you. The second one that we have here is an amazing leader that, I get even nervous when I talk because he has represented all of us for a long time and very well done. General Nordy and Schwartz, he was our Chief of Staff for the Air Force. And sir, it is a privilege to have you here tonight and look forward to hearing from you. And we also have Matthew Alvarado. Matthew, thank you for being with us. He is a retired Navy, and he's got an amazing stories to share with us. And his spouse is just unbelievable. We love him a lot, and he's done a lot for our community. So we'll get to hear about him as well. And finally, we have Colonel Beers. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. She's also in San Antonio, like myself and Colonel Janaros. And welcome to talk to Becky because her husband, Chad Beers, has done a lot for our community. And also because we want to show the male spouse perspective. We always get to hear about the female side, the military wives, but we also want to share the male spouse perspective. And Chad has done a lot for our community, and I know that we have a lot to share about Chad. So everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I want to start again by saying just that. Military spouses are amazing because not only because we're military spouses, but because so many of us do a lot for our community, not just advocating, not just by helping to change policy, going to the Hill, but just because we're supporting our neighbors, because we are actually helping those that we know are going to be there for us one day. And because all of us have been military spouses before, because we've done it for a little while, I want to start by asking you, what is it that you would like to share with our audience? One thing about your spouse that you think it would be beneficial for our spouses to hear about. I can talk about everybody over and over and over because they're just amazing and I know them so well. But I would like to hear Colonel Janaros, can you share with us a little bit about Leslie and the amazing work that she's doing here in San Antonio?
Sure. Again, thanks for having us first. And I really want to say to you directly, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
One of the most beautiful things in life is getting to see when passion and purpose collide. And this is what the moment has brought for you and for your team and what you advocate and stand for. So I appreciate that. And certainly no better opportunity to do this on the eve of the National Military Spouses Appreciation Day. And early shout out to all those mothers out there too. So again, thank you and greetings from the Gateway Wing. So there's certainly not one way to describe Leslie, right? You know her. She's an absolute ball of energy. She's a cyborg, right? But I will tell you, the biggest thing that I know about her is she has a huge heart for serving others. So in addition to being my soulmate, best friend, Uber athlete, and homeschool mom of 7, she really just wants to serve other people. And I'm so glad that she's along for this ride and this journey with us here.
Thank you so much, sir. And yes, she is amazing. I agree with you. So now, General Schwartz, it's your turn to talk. I mean, I think that we will need like 2-3 episodes to just talk about Miss Susie Schwartz. But, I mean, something that you would like to share with us.
Well, I married up in life. And as many of you know, Berenice and so on, certainly Matthew, who we've spent some time with over the years. You know, like Jason's spouse, Susie has a nuclear reactor there inside. And I think the interesting thing, the story that's really significant about Sue is she was sort of a reluctant military spouse. You know, she's a brat, of course, and swore she'd never marry a military guy. And I remember we were stationed at Hurlburt Field at one point. This is, I guess, when I was a captain or major. And she used to put classified ads on the seat of my car. And those classified ads at the time were for airlines called Braniff and Eastern. And I think she was hopeful that I, would move on. And it turned out, of course, that it didn't happen quite that way. And importantly, the wonderful thing about Sue is that she, was a professional in her own right, worked for Hyatt for many years until it became too difficult. And she decided on her own, this was clearly not something I could compel. She decided to devote herself to Air Force spouses and Air Force families, and certainly has done so. And I guess I should acknowledge today, y'all, that we have a new military spouse of the year as of today, and I hope that she's on the nets. And so Susie and I certainly extend our warmest congratulations, and that the reality is that this has always been a team sport between the military member and the spouse, and it always will be.
There you go. Yes, that is so true. And we see the comments right now that everybody's saying, who doesn't love Susie? And she has an impact in everybody's life. And like I said, that's why we could have so many episodes about her, because I can tell you that I am who I am, and I'm here because of her leadership and mentorship. So that was really nice. Thank you for sharing that, sir. And now I'm going to go to Matthew. Matthew, I'm pretty excited to get to hear something about Brian. I mean, we all know Brian. He does so much for our community. He works with Harner Heroes, one of our partners, and he does amazing. And I want to share something with you. My husband joined one of Harner Heroes virtual webinars a couple of weeks ago, and he was calling. He's like, "Oh my goodness, you gotta hear this! Brian, this guy is amazing. All the stuff that he knows." And I told him, "Brian Alvarado?" He's like, "Yes." I was like, "I know him. He's my friend." He's like, "No." So it was really nice that my husband was so excited to hear someone and making an impact. And I got to brag that you know what, I got to say that, hey, I know him, so he's my friend.
Well, good evening, everybody from Washington, D.C. Again, I'm Matthew Alvarado, and thank you for having the opportunity to be with you all tonight. What I can say about Brian is that we were late in my career when we actually met and got married. And from the moment that Brian stepped inside the fence line, he had no exposure prior to the Navy life, even living in San Diego as many years as he had. So it was a complete culture shock to join Team Navy when he did. As soon as he got involved, he joined the Family Readiness Group, and in a matter of a few months later, he became the Family Readiness President of Amphibious Constructor Battalion 1, based out of Amphibious Base Coronado. And from that moment, Brian became an integral part of the command. The triad was great to have him there. Once we transferred there, in my last 3 years of my career, we went to Fleet Anti-Submarine Warfare Training Center, where I was an instructor my last 3 years in the Navy, and he volunteered again to become the Navy Ombudsman for the command, and worked directly with the captain in the triad, which was a unique command because he had the ability to work with senior ranking E6 and above instructors and command staff, as well as brand new sailors from E1 to E4 that had no exposure to the Navy or even into their first ship or submarine at that time. So he really had an impact for those young sailors and families joining the fleet and getting ready to join the fleet and have those questionings of like, what is life on board a ship for 6 months or more?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And that's one of the things that we will be relating right now within our conversation with the younger spouses, with the enlisted, with the impact and the things that we can do for them right now that they are so young and welcome them into the military. Thank you, Matthew. And I'm gonna go with Miss Becky Beers, Colonel Beers. I know Colonel Beers for a few years now, and her husband is MSAN's chairman. And the reason why I wanted them to be part of this is because they've been with MSAN for a while. They've been big supporters. And Chad, also as a male spouse, has done so many things for the community. Even back in the day when the Spouses Club was very female-oriented, and we had coffee, teas, lunches, and get-togethers, and Chad was always there. So it was amazing.
I have to tell you a quick story. When my first squadron command, we were in AETC. We went to the AETC Commanders Conference, and the vice, the general, and his wife, they were the mentors, and his wife would take the spouses, and she said, and Chad was the only male spouse there, and she said, this is a new Air Force. I'm going to say spouses from now on. I know it's not just wives. So, okay, I promise I will try to do that. And in the very next breath, she said, okay, ladies, we're going to the next room. And that was almost 10 years ago. And things have really changed in our Air Force since then. But Chad has been there from the beginning. He was born into the military. His dad was active duty Army. He enlisted in the Navy right out of high school. We got married 2 weeks after his enlistment was up. So he has literally had an ID card his entire life. And I have leaned on him and his enlisted experience many, many times throughout my commands and throughout every job. Sometimes, I'll tell him a story, sometimes he thinks I'm too soft and I should have yelled more. I think, but otherwise he gives me great advice. And throughout the commands that I've had, he has been a key spouse mentor. And even being the only male spouse, he has really jumped in with both feet, and that's just the way he is. He can't do anything half measured. If he's going to do something, he is going to do it well. And as you know, he is a kidney transplant recipient. So this crisis has hit us really close to home, trying to keep him as safe as possible. So without ever using a sewing machine, he bought himself a sewing machine. He has learned to make us some pretty amazing masks. For me, usually sunblock that goes out, but so that's him in a nutshell. I told him that there was a retiree at the commissary that asked me where I had gotten this mask because he had never seen that pattern before. And Chad said, well, did you ask him if he needed one? I could make him one. I did not ask him. So that's just the guy he is. So
that's who he is, and I think that's why I wanted to start this chat by hearing the wonderful spouses that are out there, because we want everybody to get inspired. The way that we usually celebrate military spouses is by bringing them and talk about the stuff they do, and we get all excited and then we celebrate. But we hardly ever hear the other side from their partner, from their spouse, to talk to us about who they are and what they mean to you. And I think General Schwartz and Becky, you two said two key words: teamwork and leaning on your spouse. And I think this is something that is not so much required within our military, but is something that is needed, and is something that is going to make us both successful. You as a military officer enlisted, or what you do, and us as a spouse having a career, advocating for our military community, continue to do what we are passionate to do. And I think that I know that you all agree with what I just said, that it takes teamwork, it takes for us to lean on our spouse, and a military spouse has a big impact in the success of a service member. What do you guys think? Colonel Janaros, what do you think of that? What do you want our audience to know about that team effort, the leaning on each other, and the impact that military spouses have in somebody's career?
Sure. Well, just look at the beauty of this panel itself. The diverse thought, diverse experience set, and the one force, one fight mentality. And the General hit it on the head before. We use the term all the time in this wing that success is always a team sport. So you get no credit for solo efforts in this game, whether it be from a military combined effort or certainly on the home front. And I want to bring up something that Becky talked about, that this is hit close to home. So we've had to thrive in chaos, really writ large as a force. But this is the first time we've really done it with our family members on the front lines with us. So you think about where we are, and usually we're engaging the enemy on their turf, but this enemy does not discriminate. This enemy knows no boundaries or borders. And so to be able to navigate through this crisis together, the strength and resilience of the home front is more paramount than ever.
That is very true. And you mentioned the word resilience, which is a very powerful word, and something that we focus a lot on. We want, and more when it comes to the new spouses and the mentees that we have, when we talk to them about being resilient and all of those things, something that we're trying to teach them, that not to be afraid of the word resilience, or to be known as a backbone of the military. Some people might feel it as a weight, thinking that they always have to have it all together, thinking that they always have to know what to do and be able to always be on the go and be perfect. And something that we're trying to teach them is that resiliency doesn't mean that being the backbone of the military, as we are known, is not necessarily a responsibility to take on, but it is a team effort. And between all of us can eventually be resilient, because we are resilient with each other, because all of us are the backbone of the military, not just us as individuals. So I completely agree with you, Colonel, that we are not all of us fighting in the home front. And I think that is making us a better team, because now we're working together and fighting the same thing at the same time. That is really awesome. Yeah. So what about you, Matthew? What do you think?
Well, I would have to say that since Brian and I, before we got married for 14 years, I served as a hard-charging sailor, doing my job every day, getting underway. I've deployed on 2 ships. I've deployed to Iraq and Kuwait on the ground with the Army and Coast Guard. So there was a lot of a single time. And then once Brian came into the picture, he jumped right in and wanted to know exactly what I did every day and what was the mission of the command. Because he would drive by the building and be like, "Oh, there's a big boat right there. What does that do?" And you'd explain, the mission of ship-to-shore movement, transporting Marines and cargo from a ship to the shore and supporting the warfighters when they took the beachhead. So those kind of questions of asking exactly what I did every day, what a 24-hour duty was really like. Did I really have to spend the whole night at the command for duty day? What was it to go on a field exercise when I'm not supposed to use the phone, but we're only 20 minutes away up north from Camp Pendleton, California? So he got to some experience of that aspect right there. But then when that time when we were there, he got involved with the command as well to support those young wives and boyfriends and girlfriends of the command that had no experience, fresh from home when they came with their high school sweethearts, or if they came from a hometown that had 30 people inside of it, and now you're introduced to Southern California with the average freeway is 6 on one side and 6 on the other, and these wives don't understand how to actually merge. The speed limit may be 65 in California, but you really got to go 80 to get on the freeway to be safe. So Brian took these spouses and these family members and taught them how to survive Southern California for their first time.
Wow, that's wonderful, and that's so Brian to take someone under their wing and take everybody at the same time. That's amazing. What about you, General? Oh, yeah, you're muted. There you go.
Maybe the best story I have about Susie's impact, it happened in April of 2009. We were in Washington at the time, and some of you may recall that in early 2009, Secretary Gates decided that the families of the fallen could meet their fallen at Dover Air Force Base at the mortuary there when the fallen returned from Iraq and Afghanistan. Prior to that time, that was not the case. And so we went up for the first dignified transfer event that occurred in April. And there were 3 families that evening, and they were in the chapel annex at Dover Air Force Base. And there were, the range of dynamics that you would expect with a family that has lost their daughter or their son. And I was focused naturally on trying to offer comfort, but Susie's a natural at this, and so we did our best to comfort the families. It wrapped up in the early morning hours, and probably between 2 and 3, we were on the airplane back to Washington, and I was going to take a nap. And Susie elbows me, and she says, "You're going to fix that." And I said, "Fix what?" And she said, "Didn't you see it?" And I said, "See what?" And of course, when I was in the chapel annex, which was at the time was a fairly small room, I didn't really see the facility or so on and so forth. She said they were sitting on metal folding chairs. And she said, "You're going to fix that." And as some of you may know, within 6 months, the Center for the Families of the Fallen was finished with the assistance of the USO and multitude of contractors and so on. And this occurred in April, and so before Christmas, we cut the ribbon on the Center for the Families and the Fallen. So never again was there going to be an occasion where families didn't have a degree of privacy, that they were seated in a comfortable surrounding, and that they had support if they had youngsters or what have you. Center for the Families of the Fallen was something for the joint family, clearly, and it's a great tribute to Susie for observing these things which I did not see, and then encouraging me rather strenuously to get after it. So that's that's one of many stories about Sue taking care of others.
Yes, and that is beautiful, because she was even thinking about the smallest details that will make someone else feel better during those hard times, and that's the beauty a lot of the times of the relationships. More when we are married to an active duty member, to someone that is in a leadership position, the focus is in a big picture. The focus is on the mission, is on the active duty members, on the squadrons, on all of that. And sometimes you get to miss those details that can make a big impact in others. And that's when the military spouse is coming in to say, hey, by the way, do you notice this? Hey, by the way, you need to fix that. So I think that's another way for us to show the beauty of how the military spouse is like the eagle with the big eyes, always keeping an eye on everything and helping the active duty member to say, hey, you missed this, you missed that.
By the way, she didn't say, by the way.
Yes. So what about you, Colonel Beers?
So Chad does not like to be the center of attention. He does not like to be up in front of people, giving big speeches or whatever. Thankfully, he is the organized one in our family. So in command, the key spouse program, is the triad: spouse, the commander, the first sergeant. And he would be the one to keep me on task. We need to meet. When are we going to do the commander's call? So if he said it, then I knew I had to do it, because I knew that it was coming from a place where he had to put himself in an uncomfortable position to be in front of everyone. He's so easygoing and easy to talk to that he was comfortable being the mentor to a few key spouses that were able to come to him with issues, problems, or whatever that he would bring up to me. Why is Airman so-and-so's wife not getting the medical care that she needs? Or why haven't they been paid for their PCS from 4 months ago? And they're an A1C, and this is her first, or they're both their first assignments, so they don't know what they're entitled to. All of those things add up to him taking care of our family.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I got to see so many of those times where he will come and get everyone together, say, okay, we gotta do something about here. He was, I was also a key spouse mentor when he was a key spouse mentor, and he will bring all the ladies together and say, okay, ladies, we gotta do something is going on. So for not liking the spotlight or be the center of attention, he was great about bringing everyone together and say, what are we gonna do to fix this? There's a family in need, what do we gotta do? And I think that's also another beauty of when military spouses start taking the roles of a key spouse or FRGs or so many different volunteer positions where they start filling gaps and they start providing more support, and they start teaching others, empowering, educating, making sure those families are taken care of. And this is gonna take me into the next part that I want to cover with all of you. This is in order for us to do the stuff that we do, to continue to grow, to advocate, we usually start at an installation level. We work with in our street or within our readiness center, within our installation, and then we start growing and growing and growing. But the reason why we continue to grow is because we're learning from others. It's because we have a mentor. It's because we have someone that is helping us get there. It's because there was someone that believed in us and helped us get there. And I think that my next question is gonna be, something that I want to share with everybody. I mean, everybody knows MSAN is focused about mentorship for our new military spouses. We got to make a difference in their lives. We got to provide the education they need up front. They got to know that we are here to support them. And we want to teach them because we want them to become those future advocates that will eventually take our place, because we want them to have that relationship with their spouse to become that team and that those eyes that we will look into those details. And we were lucky enough to bring this program to leadership, the basic training for the Air Force, and said, look, we hope that you will consider us to use this program, because this is where we will get to mentor not just the military spouses, significant others, and fiancés. And we found a leader that was as passionate as we were to provide education and mentorship for new military spouses. And Leslie Janaros, she's extremely passionate about supporting, and she was a big reason why we are here. And Colonel Janaros, this is something that I think we need to share with everybody. In order for us to continue to do what we do and be able to build all the wonderful things that we just talked about right now, we got to start from day one, correct?
That's right. So the 37 Training Wing has the high honor of being deemed mission essential. And part of that is really being the gateway to the Air Force. And so for context for the viewers out there, this is the sole entry point for all enlisted recruits. So this is the face of the franchise and really the first touch point for all enlisted members. So just to paint that picture, if we're training and recruiting about 40,000 airmen per year, we're also trying to retain their families as long as we possibly can. And so us as the first impression point here, it's absolutely vital that we get that right. And so Leslie and the Key Spouse Network and the teaming approach here, and certainly your organization coming in, we've got to make sure that these spouses are loved on, number one, and that they are educated, encouraged, and empowered right from the very beginning. So I give this example, Bernice, is who's going to pick up multiple languages earlier, the 5-year-old or the 50-year-old, right? So the earlier we can engraft this value system and our love for others and our care and concern for others, that will carry on for many, many years as they continue to serve with their military spouse.
I couldn't work my unmute button. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, who's gonna learn the most, and when you are ready to take on all of that. And I think that now I'm going to ask the General, as the Chief of Staff, sir, I'm pretty sure that you got to see many spouses that were ready to come to you and Susie and bring all this feedback, and we need help here. According to the position that you had as the Chief of Staff. The mute.
I'm not a natural at this. Thank you very much. I think a key aspect is that, and it's true not only with spouses, it's with all the many communities on an installation. It's certainly the unit leadership. It's the chiefs group or the master chiefs group, as the case may be. Sergeant majors group. It's the folks outside the fence. Certainly, the local community matters. But the reality is that. And just an example, I came in the Air Force in 1973, a long time ago. Most of you weren't born. And the reality is that at that time, the Air Force was 2/3 single and 1/3 married. And then in 2008, when I and Susie and I came back to Washington, it was the exact opposite. It was 2/3 married and 1/3 single. And the reality was then, and increasingly so, is that what the way we used to manage a combat force with largely single members was unlikely to be successful with a force that had transformed into largely married and families. And so it was vital to make sure we understood. I'll give you one quick example. One thing that Susie picked up early on, and it became one of her causes, was EFMP, the Exceptional Family Member Program. And trust me, nobody ever talked to me about EFMP. But people talked to Susie about EFMP and that it was not serving the needs of the families that we relied upon. And so we began to work that diligently. And that is, again, one of Susie's legacies, in my view, is that we placed appropriate emphasis on exceptional families and did it more broadly too. But there was an example of a particular area that was a blind spot. And even more so during the years of, major combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so there was an example of how, a military spouse who had much better antenna than I did, made a difference.
Yeah, that is very true, and I think that it's always good to show the different levels of even a leadership, even if it's just in your home, the impact that a military spouse can have. So tell us a little bit more about that, Matthew, with Brian.
Well, the incredible part has been watching military spouses since we got married and their interaction with the community, the bases, and the command as well as a whole. I've never seen a group of dedicated people more than military spouses and significant others dedicate themselves to helping each other. That's one thing that our civilian counterparts don't seem to understand in their workforces, is that in a moment's notice, I could have called Brian and said, hey, I have 3 sailors that don't have plans for Thanksgiving, and they can't afford to fly home, and we are going to open our home and serve a meal. That way they're not alone on a freezing cold ship on Thanksgiving. When Brian became a part of the family readiness group at Amphibious Constructor Battalion 1, he had met a young 19-year-old spouse, recently reported to San Diego, and she had asked for some assistance in trying to find a job that was not in retail or food services. Again, she was 19. They had moved from Nevada, from a small desert town. And again, she was the first to come to Southern California, been introduced to the freeways, earthquakes, the beach, the airport in the middle of the city. It was a big culture shock to her. And she was enough courage to ask Brian for assistance. And immediately Brian reached out to his network in San Diego when he was working in real estate there, and asked her if anyone was hiring a job. Within a couple days, she was offered a job as a receptionist at a mortgage firm, and now she's going on to her year 7th. She is now a mortgage officer at the same firm, teleworking from her company that was based in San Diego, and now she's in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that impact alone, to not only for some income into the family to stabilize it more, because San Diego is a very expensive environment, but also to give back to the community of San Diego Metro, because with the extra income, she went out into town to go spend her money that provided for services not only to the base but to the local community as well, raising taxes and sales taxes to help out the San Diego metro area. So reaching out for help is, I would express to our new spouses that, or significant others, is don't be afraid to ask for help on base or military affiliated branches. Don't be afraid. There's some great people out there that are willing to take the time and effort. And I can tell you after 20 years in the Navy that the Navy and the DoD in general has came a long way from, I'll use a Navy term, if your family wasn't in your sea bag, it doesn't matter. To now that family is number one, because if I'm worrying about what's going on at home, I'm not going to worry about what's downrange. So Brian has definitely impacted my two cannons we were together with, and definitely changed some hearts and minds as well.
That's wonderful. And I think a lot of it, a lot of the how everything has changed throughout the years in the culture of the military. I think there's a saying that if the military wanted you to have a spouse, they will assign you one. So I think that all of that, we have overcome so many of those things because the military spouse role, because the advocacy, because the influence, because the presence. I think now when we talk about military spouses, once upon a time, the role was a spouse that was at home taking care of kids and supporting their spouse. Now, when we talk about military spouses, military spouses have PhDs and they have these big roles, and they're CEOs and they're advocates, and they're changing the world, and they're changing so many things, everything for the better, of course. And we get to see it little by little. Right, Becky?
Yeah, I wanted to, so our entire culture, not just the military, we've gotten a lot of help from Congress, just the small thing of not having to change your residency as a spouse, going from one state to another, has been huge. And that's only happened in the past 10 or so years. Not having to change your license every time. Or Chad was an electrician for the longest time. He had to get an electrician's license. Every state, he's got, in at least 3 states, he's licensed. So just those things, those seem small to everybody else, but it's huge for our families. Having the opportunity to continue to work, if they so choose, in the field that they're accredited in, and that has been, I think that has been a great improvement that we've seen across, like I said, not just that. Those were our civilian leaders that helped us to do that. So we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Allow me to piggyback on that.
Yes, sir.
Because that's an excellent point, Becky. It reminds me of another thing that was one of Susie's causes, and this goes back to that there were some states that accepted other transcripts of our kids as we moved around, and some states that didn't. And one of the last states to agree to the sort of universal acceptance of credentials of military children happened to be Georgia. And the governor of Georgia at the time, I happen to remember this vividly, was Governor Deal. And again, Susie one evening whispered in my ear that, Georgia was being difficult in terms of the governor encouraging the legislature to accept the credentials, the transcripts of the military kids as they moved into the state. And so I had a conversation with Governor Deal. He actually took my call, interestingly enough. And but I wasn't the only one. There was a bit of a plan on this. There were other seniors that chatted with him as well. But the bottom line was, we reminded him that there were more than a few military installations in the state of Georgia, that they brought, not only great credit to the communities in which they served, but there were lots of other positive impacts. and that if he wanted to continue to have installations that were magnets for people from the Army and the Air Force in particular, and the Navy at the submarine base, that a key factor in the willingness of families to go somewhere was the quality of the schools and the ability of the children to transition quickly into those schools. Ultimately, he changed his mind, and the Georgia legislature, passed that legislation to become probably the last state of 50 that became members of the so-called compact. I mention that not as a credit. There were many people that sort of dealt with this, but those are the kinds of things when Becky was talking about civilian leadership. Some are more forward thinking than others, and some require a bit more persuasion than others. And that's just one story about a former governor that needed a little bit of encouragement.
Hey, General, before we switch topics, I just wanted to personally thank you and Susie. So as an EFMP family ourselves, I've actually got 5 of our J Crew family members in special needs categories, to include my youngest, who's deaf and hard of hearing. So I just wanted to thank you for fighting that fight for so many years and continuing to do so. And I also want to share a quick, small Air Force story. So you and I got a chance to spend Thanksgiving together about 11 years ago in Manas at Kyrgyzstan.
And I had my chef's hat on, and Susie did too.
Yes, sir. It looked good.
It's a good thing I didn't cook, though, I'll tell you. I just served. I am fully qualified at serving.
Just want to know I appreciate you, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
That's awesome. And Colonel Janaros, right now that you're on the line, and we're talking about the many hats that spouses wear and how they are influencing and helping even civilians and other things to change to help us here in Military City, USA in San Antonio. The base, the installation, you guys have a great relationship with the city of San Antonio, and not only to support military people here in San Antonio, but even veterans and everyone. This is a very tight community. Although it's a big city, it's a very tight community. And I know that you and Leslie are doing a lot to provide that kind of support and that relationship with civilian world.
Yeah, I'm just Leslie's husband. You understand that, right? That's my greatest job title. But you understand the power of these relationships. They drive the results, but more importantly, they speak to the character of who we are as airmen and really what that partnership tie looks like. But so I want to put this into context, though, as you talk about celebrating spouses, because I have a unique opportunity. When I come home, I get to talk to not only Leslie, the spouse, but the Air Force veteran. So we're going to spend some time talking about this in Q&A, I'm sure. But for context, Leslie and I met at Florida State University going through the ROTC program, and I will tell you that one of us was a distinguished graduate, and it's not the wing commander. So it's pretty awesome to be able to come home and share these thoughts and philosophies, but also understanding the narrative, the acronyms, the challenges of power, the positions that come with it. And so her ability to navigate circles that we in uniform cannot has also been a very valuable thing to connect those tissues together. So I cannot say enough about the ability for our military spouses to bring people together to ask questions. And as the general mentioned before, by the way, has a lot of different contexts.
Exactly. Right now we got Casey, our VP. She's monitoring the comments. She's monitoring the questions. And before we go into that, I just want to say that we have 4 gift cards to give away. At the end, we're going to announce the names, and we're going to send them to you by email. This is an electronic gift card so that you can do some online shopping and to celebrate military spouses, and this is the reason why we're here. And like we always mention, it's going to be different to what we're used to when it comes to a celebration. But I always want others to hear what what a military spouse means when it comes from a military member. Through their eyes, their spouse's eyes, their active duty member, what is it that it means to be a military spouse? And Casey, let's go ahead and start with the questions and the comments and all the good stuff.
You know, I've been sitting here, I've been reading all of the comments. There's a lot of people joining us tonight from all over the world, which is amazing because we know MSAN reaches so many different areas and so many different spouses who need mentorship. Everybody is just blown away with stories, and thanks for what we're doing, and thanks for everybody sharing their stories right now. We have new spouses joining in right now who are getting ready to start navigating this journey. And I mean, it's not been that long since I was a new spouse, and man, how I wish I would have known this stuff back then, or known that help was here just 8 years ago even. So we don't actually have any questions right now. Just we've got a lot of
great comments. Yes.
A lot of love for everybody.
Yes, that's what we're seeing. And I think it's amazing that we're sharing all this stuff, and hopefully everybody is soaking up with all the stuff that we're talking about, and they're just excited and empowered, because this is the reason of this conversation, to get people empowered, to know that we appreciate what everybody is doing, and also to know that the military spouse is beyond that, and we do so much that sometimes is not noticed as much, and not because we're looking for recognition, not because we're looking for any of that stuff, but because we want others to know that this is our family and we're here to take care of it. And it's not just my family at home, it's my whole military family. And we fight together and we support each other, and we wear so many different hats, and we volunteer everywhere, and we still go to work. And so that's the kind of I hope attention that others pay to a military spouse. Like I said, not for recognition, not because, oh, she's a military spouse, poor spouse, because their spouse is deploying. No, it's the opposite. We're strong, and I think we can do something for this world besides not just our military community. But I want others to know what a military spouse is. It's not just about celebrations. It's not just about, recognitions are wonderful because spouses are doing amazing things. But even those that don't have a recognition, they're doing amazing things behind the scenes. So that is just something I wanted to share with everybody. And I think that while we continue to monitor the comments and see if we have any questions, I want to leave you with a thought. I want you to share with us as a final thought, or as something else that you want to share about your spouse, and a message that you want to send mainly to our audience, the youngest population in the military, the brand new spouses, those that are just starting this journey. They are probably afraid, and probably they're wondering, I don't want to talk to a military leader because I want to get my spouse in trouble, or I don't want to get close to them because I don't know what they're going to think of me. What kind of message would you give a brand new spouse that are still wondering what to do? And I can start with Colonel Janaros.
Sure. So Bernice, you understand from a BMT perspective that the optics have changed. The narrative has changed over time. So BMT is not just the 18-year-old kid from Ames, Iowa. This is a very diverse, very smart, very educated population that is everywhere from the 17-year-old that probably forged their mom's signature to the 39-year-old that has a PhD and 3 kids. And so they may be new to the Air Force and new to being a spouse and the military spouse, but to build that relationship from day one is extremely important. So what I would tell them, and Leslie does a great job of tying this together, is that just like there's no magical rank in the military, there's no magical formula for success for being a spouse. You've got to make sure that the grace is intertwined with that resiliency. So we don't expect you to have it figured out in the beginning. that is why we do programs like to have the great mentorship to connect those things together. So that's what I would say. That's kind of the heart of what your organization is about. And that's certainly the tone that you want to set the day that these young men and women come in and they're introduced to what it means to be an armed services member and that family and fighting together through this.
Yeah, that's wonderful and a great message. Thank you so much, sir. General.
You know, I think I would just share with the young spouses that their anxiety, and clearly they have some, is probably secretly shared by the military member as well. And so the bottom line is that my suggestion is for the spouses, the young spouses, is to seek out a friend, a contemporary, and maybe in rare instances, maybe not so rare, hopefully today, there might be a little more experienced spouse who they trust and can benefit from their mentorship and experience. I know that there's a lot of Susie Schwartzes out there, and it's just a matter of reaching out, taking a little bit of risk, and it'll all be worth it.
Thank you so much, sir. That was great. Matthew.
Well, first, I would tell all our new spouses and significant others to get involved with the command that your spouse is with, or your significant other is with, or the base itself. Don't be stuck at home wishing you were back home with your family or your friends that you left to be with your spouse with. Get involved, learn about your branch itself. Like I said, Brian had no introduction to the Navy when he came in. And then when I would have come home and be like, oh, we had to paint the starboard side of the ship, and he'd be like, huh? What does starboard mean? So we'd have to explain it to him. But once you and your spouse share those experiences and get involved with the command or the base, you tend to learn and appreciate more of what your spouse is doing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's Fleet Family Support Services. There's MSAN. There's military.com. There's military one source. The VA has different for retirees or about to separate it. The VA is there for you as well. And I will tell you that when I went through the retirement process last year, you ask for multiple sources because you may not want to trust just one source right now because there is so much information out there. And the VA is definitely there to help transitioning spouses and their active duty member as well, because there are a lot of benefits to transfer out. So get involved. If you're overseas or in another state, explore that city that you're in, explore that territory or that country you're in, because you may not have an opportunity the rest of your life to say if you're stationed. I was lucky enough to be stationed in Hawaii for 10 years, and I got to see every island of the chain and experience the culture it's there. Even though we're part of the U.S., Hawaii is dramatically different than, say, California, where I was born and raised from. So get out and explore, do it with your spouse, take advantage of MWR, take advantage of a College One source on base, and go to school for free. And it doesn't have to be for a 4-year degree like everyone pushes. If you want to be a trade maker, if you want to be a sports therapy or a masseuse or a scuba diver instructor or a golf instructor, everything is available to you if you have the courage just to ask for help and get a good mentor and be out there.
Yep, great advice. And talking about getting involved. I told my husband many years ago, I told him, you know what, don't think I'm going to be one of those spouses that is going to volunteer all the time, because I go to school full time and I have a job, so I'll help whenever I can. All that it took, it was for me to get introduced to the Key Spouse program, that I dropped school to go in online and not in the nighttime. I wasn't working, and here I am still volunteering many years later. So yes, get involved, because you never know when you're going to find your passion. And the passion can be this, advocating and supporting others. Becky.
So Matthew said it perfectly. My base advice is to ask for help when you need it. As I was in Korea for a year, not that long ago, as one of my twins put it, I was gone all of 3rd grade. And Chad, even though I consider him a superhuman. Take care of the kids, full-time realtor. Because of his kidney, he had to ask for help. Our kids had to spend the night somewhere when he was hospitalized because I was that far away. But he did it, and the kids were fine. I was more worried about him being on the other side of the world. They were just like, we had a sleepover, it was great. But that is it. So it doesn't matter if you've been in the military for 1 month or 20 years. At some point, everybody is going to need help, and I would just advise to ask for it.
We're here to take care of each other. Yep, and I know we got a few questions now, and I know that we're running out of time, but let's go ahead, Casey, pretty quickly before we let our panel go tonight.
So one of our first questions, and as soon as I click it, it should pop up in the middle of the screen, I can't talk, is what advice do you have for future advocates? There we go. What advice do you have for advocates for our military spouses and meeting their needs? What's that best advice? I'm kind of curious on this too, and I'm throwing this out there because I am a key spouse right now, and sometimes it's hard, right? There's spouses everywhere. You've got spouses deployed. You've got new spouses coming in. What advice would you give advocates that are, we're over here, we're doing it, but
sure. If I may, I would just say don't take no as the first and only answer.
Yeah.
Be persistent.
Yes, I like that.
Be persistent, be professional about it, but be persistent.
Yep. We're all about being persistent. And I think when it comes to the key spouse and the first sergeant, something that we do with MSAN, when we have the mentees and we know where they're going next and we know their squadron or where they're going, we try to link them with their key spouse or their NFRC so they have that continued support. So we always try to work with the key spouses, first sergeants within the Air Force and of course the other branches so that we can try to provide the support and have the continued mentorship. Casey, what's the next one?
You know what? I think that's it. We're getting a lot of questions about mentoring and mentoring with us. So if you are interested in receiving mentorship from MSAN, we have a pinned comment in our chat right now. If you take that survey, you'll get connected with a mentor of the same branch as your serving spouse. So our team is standing by right now to pair new spouses or all spouses in collaboration with our campaign mission to mentor to a mentor right now. So for more information on our program, if you jump over to milspouseadvocacynetwork.org, you can read all about our program right there on the website.
Sounds good. And before I let everyone go and thank you for being with us, do you have one final thing, or do you think that, hey, we got this? I think we share enough with everybody. Anybody?
I think I'll say that first, I want to thank all military spouses and significant others for being active duty for 20 years. Even when I was single, when our ship would pull in and the spouses would be there welcoming us home, to coming back from Iraq when we landed in Maine for the first time, and the spouses were there to thank us and to give us a fresh bag of cookies and welcome us home. Those simple little things that spouses in the community do for the military itself, they truly do mean more than any gift or present we can receive. It's the simple things of getting a popcorn bag and a care package when you're deployed overseas. So thank you to all your spouses. Thank you to the command leadership that has evolved over the years to include the family and put families first, because that is a major stepping stone right now that has definitely increased the morale and the efficiency of the military family.
Yeah. And that improvement and involvement has also helped the role of the military spouse to become the advocate and become who we are now, because we are now seeing that many are opening the doors for us to get involved and support and make changes. Colonel Janaros, Becky, General.
So I just wanted to say thank you to you, that this MSAN is amazing. To your leadership, it has been a delight to watch this be your brainchild to what it is today and helping all of our spouses. So thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Well, thank you, Colonel. That's too nice. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else before we leave?
Just that Susie sends her love to all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Susie. Same to you.
Hey, Bernice, on behalf of Leslie and our whole team here, again, we're just blessed to be a part of this. Thank you for the panel members, the opportunity to celebrate spouses. And I just want to encourage you. You know, we talked about the first sergeants, and we talked about the people that care so much for other people. Sometimes they care to the point where their cup pours out completely. So I want to encourage you to recharge, to keep fighting that fight, to all of our spouses out there, to make sure that you matter. You matter greatly. You matter more than you know. So let's keep fighting through this. And again, I appreciate you and this opportunity. Blessed to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. And that was wonderful. And you know, Casey, do you want to say something before we leave?
No, I mean, I'm just, guys, my heart bleeds purple most days because MSAN's my all-time favoriteest thing in the whole world. Really, it is though. So I'm just, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for sharing the stories about your spouses. As a new military spouse, it was, you know, it was one of those things for me. It was culture shock. It was seeing younger, brand new military spouses, and we were an older family. We had 2 kids. So hearing the stories and knowing now, 8 years later, as my husband re-enlists in just a couple days, that, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, even in those frustrating moments where you feel like the whole world doesn't make sense, even through a pandemic. There's still somebody here, and none of this would be possible without Bernice and the brainchild of MSAN. So I tell her all the time that she's amazing, but you know, I just, like I said, I'm so thankful to get to be a part of tonight with everybody.
Well, you're just too nice. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, General. Thank you, Matthew, Colonel Beers, and Colonel Janaros. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for the support that you're giving, not just to your spouses, but to other military spouses in general. Thank you to BMT for allowing us to support military spouses from day one. We know that between this collaboration, we're making a big difference, and we're supporting military spouses. And I think that finally, to my fellow military spouses, I mean, that we can get emotional. The new ones, the seasoned ones, like we call them, thank you for everything that you do on a daily basis, from taking care of your families to supporting your installation to changing the world. Thank you for always being there for one another. And I think this is something that we do very well, taking care of one another. We always take care of our own kids and everybody else's kids. We're always supporting each other. Thank you for changing lives, for fighting and advocating for us to have a better community. To our mentees, our new military spouses, please know that we are here for you. You are not alone. Allow us to support you and mentor you, because one day, no pressure, but you will be in our seats and you will become those mentors and advocates in our community, making a difference. Just like the ones that you heard right now, the perfect examples of those wonderful spouses. You never know who's gonna be the next Susie, the next Leslie, the next Brian, the next Chad. We at MSAN, we are very proud of all of you. Thank you, and stay safe. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Next week is going to be great as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.